I've been dreaming on in my head like I've seen it. A life worth living is a life with meaning. I'll do what I love till my heart stops beating. I'm feeding this demon. Got a taste, can't erase bitterness in my face. Work a job every day till your dreams fade away. Like a card, never change, play the game that we say. I need a break. I'm staying strong, need to move on to be what I want. I'll keep dreaming on. I'm staying strong, need to move on to be what I want. I'll keep dreaming on.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Jam Session Goes Underground. I'm your host, DJ Jazzy J Love, or as most of you know, Jamie. I have a very special episode. I have somebody all the way from the UK as a guest on my show today. I'm very excited about them being here. An amazing British singer-songwriter by the name of Martin Williams. So I'm excited about that. So yeah, without further ado, may I introduce you to my guest, Martin Williams.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you for being here.
That's all right. Thanks. Great to be there. Yeah.
It's amazing, that what the internet does. I have a guest all the way from the UK. It's amazing. I love the internet.
Yeah, it's good for some things, I suppose, connecting people.
Some things, when it works properly.
Yeah.
It looks like we have David in our audience and Renee, and thank you to Renee for directing this episode. I really appreciate it. She's directing this episode and she's doing an awesome job. And so I guess, if the audience has any questions, just put them in the chat. And so I will start with my first question of how you got started in the music industry or in the realm of music.
It was 1981. I started guitar lessons, and the reason was a couple of months before John Lennon had been killed. And in my 8-year-old wisdom, I thought that I better learn to play guitar because the Beatles need a new guitarist.
Of course, they needed you as a guitarist.
Well, hopefully, yeah, but I'm not the call yet.
Well, dreams could come true. It could happen. It's always therapeutic to play the guitar. To me, like, that's a very therapeutic thing to do, and that's why I started playing the guitar, because I needed something to make me happy, and guitar definitely makes me happy. I need to get back into it.
No, it's a good friend, isn't it, when you need it?
A reliable friend, and it doesn't talk back. It doesn't cuss you out or anything. So are you like me? Do you name your guitars? Because I name my guitars. They each have a name. Yes,
I do name my guitars. Generally because my wife calls them my other women. So the majority of them got names.
Yeah, I named mine so that when I got angry with them, I can cuss them out or curse them out by name. So what were some of your musical influences growing up?
Well, number one, the Beatles, but I also grew up in a household. My parents were heavily into the English folk music scene, the English folk revival in the late 60s, early 70s. And I was brought up on basically traditional English folk music. It was only when I was about 7 years old I found the stash of Beatle records stashed in the cupboard. That's when I started listening to the Beatles, and and that's where my love of music came from. But there was always music in the house one way or the other.
If you could tell anybody who is wanting to learn how to play the guitar and wanting to get into music, what would you tell them? Like, what would you want to tell them to help them in the music industry?
But to learn to play an instrument first, basically find yourself a good tutor to begin with. I was very lucky because when I was at school, a teacher used to come in for an hour a week, take me out of lessons, and it used to be a group of us learning how to play guitar, and it was free. It was all paid by the Education Authority. But sadly, that's gone now, and basically people, if they want to learn instruments, have to go to private tutors. So it's have a good look round and find yourself a good tutor, I say, to begin with. And once you pick up the basics, the next thing is just practice, practice, practice. These things have to bleed.
Yeah.
There's no easy way. People say, oh, I've tried guitar, but it hurts my fingers. There must be an easy way. I said, no, there isn't. It hurts.
Yeah, I agree with that. You have to build up some calluses there on your fingers, and you have to practice and practice and practice. And they always say practice makes perfect, but even if you're not perfect, you're trying your best and you're working at it. It takes a lot of work, so I definitely agree with that.
Oh yeah. It's one of those things. It's a thing you'll never master. You never like, oh, I know everything about guitar, I know everything about the music, because you're finding out something new every day when you play around with it. And it's when you've done it for a few years and you start messing around with different tunings and different ways of playing, you discover things. But to begin with, get yourself a good tutor and somebody who knows his stuff on what you want to play. Because one of my biggest problems was my guitar teacher wanted me to play classical guitar, where I wanted to play rock and roll. And so we had sometimes we had a locking of horns, but he was a brilliant bloke, and for the first 5 years he helped me on my way.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like my first guitar teacher, he was a pretty good teacher, but he wasn't so focused on teaching me how to play guitar. He heard another music teacher, because she had walked in on our instruction, and she was like, I'm sorry. And she said, if you were in my class, I'd put you on the saxophone. And he's like, there you go, Jamie. I was like, no, I'm here to learn how to play guitar. So my second guitar teacher, I'd actually bought my first guitar from, and I asked him, I said, is it better to learn on an acoustic guitar versus an electric guitar? And he's like, well, it's good to learn on whichever one you're wanting to learn on. It does not matter, because if you're wanting to learn on an electric guitar, you're not gonna want to learn on an acoustic. Your mind's going to be on the electric guitar. So I listened to him, and that's what I learned on, was an electric guitar.
Where I went the other way, because I wanted the electric guitar, but my dad said I had to learn how to play the acoustic first. And then for Christmas, if I'm good enough, if I can play my song, I'll end up with me electric, which I did eventually, yeah.
There you go.
So that's how it goes.
I guess another good question is, what's the difference, or how does it differ, like American music versus like UK music, music from the UK?
That's a good one. On the folk scene, for me, I understand more the English stuff because I live and born in England, know the history of England. And I also know some of the history of the American music, because it's basically came from our islands over to the New World, as it was called in those days, and the influences of the immigrants from this country and the rest of the world played into American culture and music. So there's a lot of Irish, Scottish, English influences within the American music, as well as the the African influences of blues and jazz and all the other African rhythms that come together. But as music as a whole, there's not much difference. It's just that we've got slightly different traditions, and where you sing about Route 66, we sing about going down the River Thames sort of thing. You know, that's the cultural differences.
Yeah. I'm originally a jazz musician. That's the band that I played in. I played big band jazz, and you know, a lot of my musical taste surrounds that. But I love all sorts of music. I love folk music. I love jazz. I love heavy metal. I love it all. So, what do you prefer to play? Like, what is your favorite genre of music to play?
I found myself within the folk scene because it's, you know, it's dead easy, acoustic guitar, and off you go. I did start off playing in rock bands and punk bands. I was bass player in a punk band for a couple of years, but it's carrying all the gear around and everything like that. Where as you're a folk singer, you can just turn up at a club with just a guitar and off you go.
Is the guitar the only instrument that you play, or are there other instruments that you play as well?
It's predominantly guitar. I'm trying to teach myself how to play mandolin, which I'll never do in public. I've inherited a banjo over there, which I'm in the process. I've sort of got a few retirement projects on the go. I've got an Appalachian banjo in the corner over there. My mandolin's downstairs, and that's about it. And I've got an application mountain harp up there, which is another instrument I'll get round to learn how to play when I get around to it.
Yeah, I've kind of collected different instruments myself, and I really want to learn how to play the mandolin, but it's a little bit of an intimidating instrument to me. Like it seems like it would be a little bit hard to play.
It depends which style you want to play. If you just want to strum chords, it's easy enough. You just have to remember it's slightly smaller. And with me, with sausage fingers, sometimes I'm hitting the wrong notes and everything. So, but it is. But as again, it's like anything else. It's practicing it. Because one of my music teachers, his hands were like shovels, and he used to play mandolin. You know, his fingers were like that, and he was note perfect. You know, so.
Yeah, I guess it's, you know, just depends on the like style that you play. It depends on the person, really.
Yeah, and patience.
Patience. Which is something that I don't have a whole lot of, unfortunately. I get very impatient. One of my guitar teacher was teaching me Scott Joplin's Entertainer song, and I just couldn't get it down whatsoever. I practiced and practiced and practiced, and I kept hitting the notes wrong. And I'm like, you know, I want to move on to the next song. I'm done with this song. And he's like, I said, it's a pain to play. And he said, I don't care. And I was like, okay, good. If you don't care, let's move on to the next subject. And he's like, no, you don't get off that easily. He's a really good guitar teacher. So he kept me on the straight and narrow. So, do you write your own music? You compose your own music. Yeah. What are your inspirations, and what is your process?
Now that's a I haven't got a clue on my processes. It's just if you could sort of like look around my room, I've got pieces of paper scattered everywhere with half-written lyrics and things and ideas. So sometimes I write lyrics first, sometimes I come up with a little tune, and then I try and marry the half-written lyrics around the room to the tune, or just write a complete new song over the tune. My influences are as wide as long as the day. You know, like you, I listen to anything and everything. Any musical documentaries on the television, I'm watching them, from, you know, the Beatles to Slayer, stuff like that. And you know, it's just you just take bits out of little bits of genres and just sort of like try and mold your own. What I do is try and mold my own sort of thing into it. As I say, I'm predominantly English folk music, but there's bits of blues, bluegrass, and all sorts in my stuff if you listen very carefully. And that's where the main influence is from. Process, I haven't got a clue, but it just happens. And I've been, like, it started when I was 14, when I was doing my music exams at school, and it's just something I carried on.
Organic. That's what this show is. I don't prepare any questions, and I always tell my guests, I'm like, sometimes I feel silly because I feel like I'm a deer in the headlights because I forget what I was going to ask, and then I forget what I was saying, and I'm like stuttering for a little while. But I think it's better for things to be organic because it comes more from the heart. In my opinion, it comes more from, the soul, and you're more honest about things in that light. You said that the Beatles was one of your influences. Are there any other bands like that you really, really favored a lot?
Well, coming on through me sort of teen years, I became a big fan of Dire Straits, U2, and Big Country. So there's a sort of Celtic influences there from their music. And then progressing into, shall we say, late 20s, early 30s, I started really getting into the English electric folk music with, likes of Fairport Convention, Steel Eye Span, the Oyster Band, and a few others, which I can't reel off at the moment. And the Modern Electric folk bands is a band which comes from the town just up the road from me, Merry Hell, and they started off. They started off about 30 years ago as a different band and format, but they've come into this super existence now. And there's another band from the Wirral, which is on across the water from Liverpool, called Elbow Jane, and they're absolutely brilliant as well. And I grew up with these lads going around festivals with our parents, and they've formed this band, and they're absolutely brilliant. So all influences comes into my music as well. Oh, that's a nice chord, I might use that one. You know what I mean?
One of my favorite bands from the UK, they come from Cork City, Ireland. They go by the name of Ruby Horse. I had the privilege of meeting them at a fair in the United States, and George Harrison actually played on one of their songs, which I thought was absolutely fascinating. So, I just think that that's interesting. I have quite a few bands that I really like that are from the UK, and they happen to be one of them. And I just thought of that because, you like the Beatles a lot. Who doesn't like the Beatles? I mean, come on, I love the Beatles. George Harrison is my favorite, and he happened to be on their album.
Well, George is one of mine. It was basically out, I wanted to replace John after he died, but it was George's guitar playing that I enjoyed listening to, the lead lines and the licks and things like that. But I thought, well, George was still alive at the time, so I'll have to take over from John.
Yeah. I can understand that. I'm going to see if there's any questions from the audience. I don't think anybody has asked anything. Have you played at any festivals? Have you went on tour or played any gigs? And what's the most memorable moment?
Wow. Yes, I've done 2 festivals. One up in the North Yorkshire called the Monaco Sessions. That was my first proper festival. First proper festival that I got asked to play as a musician instead of a participant in the audience sort of thing. And then the last 2008-9 years, I've been a regular on the Fleetwood Folk and Blues Festival in Fleetwood, which is a seaside town, 40 miles north of here. And I've done a couple of gigs, mainly what we call pub gigs, where you just turn up a pub, do a few songs and hope you get paid. And my most memorable gig is when I got asked to support a bloke called Anthony John Clark, who's an Irish singer-songwriter, and Dave Pegg, who's the bass player of Folk Convention, and Jethro Tullflame. And Anthony and Dave became mates because of the Croppity Festival, which Folk Convention do. And they asked Anthony to become a comper. Dave and Anthony became mates, started playing a bit of music together, and every winter they do a tour around the UK doing the stuff. And in 2019, I was asked to do the gig that was local to me when they were playing it. And I'll tell you what, that was like, wow, I've hit the big time. And a couple of months later, the pandemic hit. So going from that high to like, oh, when am I going to play music again? And that's how it happened. But yeah, I've done a fair few gigs.
That's amazing. That's wonderful. Like the only thing that I ever played at was the big band jazz, and we played at our jazz ensemble concerts for the university. we didn't really, go any further than the university campus. It would have been neat if I could have done that.
Well, I've travelled around a bit. It's just weird that I get more work in Fleetwood, which is 40 miles away, than actually doing my hometown. It's very hard. There's no live venues around here that cater for what the sort of music I do. Which is a shame, but hopefully, you never know, with things coming out of the pandemic, somebody might start something up.
Yeah, I can totally understand that, because I'm not originally from Georgia. I moved here about 6 years ago, and I'm an artist. I do a lot of paintings and stuff, and I did win an art award for the Lifetime Movie Channel, which I don't talk about a whole lot, but because I don't like to talk about myself a ton. But yeah, like back home in Southern Illinois, where I am from, there's not a whole lot for artists there, and the first time that I got recognized as an artist is when we moved to Georgia. And I was like, I feel more at home here because they accept my artwork and they appreciate it that much more. I can totally understand that. It's sad that you can't get gigs or can't get a whole lot in your hometown, and you have to travel to, be able to do stuff like that.
Well, it's just one of those things. It's just that I've done a few civic events in the town. I've done a few, should we say, charity gigs and fundraisers within the town, but I've never had that many gigs where I actually get paid myself. It's all. Don't get me wrong. I've got nothing against doing stuff for charity, and it's one thing that drives me. If you can use your God-given talents to help somebody else, that's that's what they're there for, and that's what I do. But it'd be nice to get a couple of quid in your pocket every now and then for your endeavours. But say it's a lot of it. I do it for the love of the music. I did a session up in Fleetwood a couple of weeks ago. I was invited to go up, but wasn't expecting to get paid, and they chucked me a couple of quid, towards my diesel and a few drinks, and I was like, wow! I had a brilliant afternoon with some brilliant blues players on, and I did my bit first, and I just sat back and enjoyed the afternoon watching the blues players do their stuff. And at the end of the evening, the lady who was running the session just slipped me a couple of pounds into my pocket and said, "There, yeah, that's for your troubles." So that's lovely when you don't expect it and you get it. And and then there again, I've heard stories where people have done gigs and the people have organised it said, "No, we're not paying you." And I haven't come across that yet, but I know a few people who have.
Yeah, I can understand that. Like I've donated a lot of pieces of my artwork. Like I haven't sold too many pieces of my artwork because I'd much rather um donate it to charity or give them out as gifts to my friends. Like I don't know. It's nice when I get paid for my artwork. It is really nice bonus, but I don't ever expect it. like you said,
Yeah,
expect it.
yeah.
um,
Yes.
is there any projects that you're like working on at the moment or that you're hoping to achieve?
I'm just in the process of finishing up. Well, finishing off this sort of like writing and rehearsing of me new CD. Hopefully, I'll get it to record it sometime this year when I get the money together. But sadly, I've been off work for the last 7 months because I've had an operation on my knee, so the funds are a bit tight at the moment. But hopefully, later on in the year or maybe early next year, I'll get it recorded in a proper studio, a proper CD, and hopefully, at least one person will buy it.
Your music is wonderful. Everybody in the audience, I've had the honor and privilege of hearing Martin play some music because he has sent me some clips and he played on the sound check last weekend. And I love your music. It is so wonderful. um, do you have any songs prepared for the audience?
Yeah, well, what I'm going to do is the first track off the CD I did in 2000, I think it was 2007. And basically, because your audience doesn't know me, and the first time they heard me, it's sort of like what we call in this country a CV, or in what I think what you call it a resume. I've basically put my resume to music. It was sort of like my, yeah, hey, this is me song, and this is me introducing myself, and that's the title of the song. So if you want me to give you a blaster, we'll do.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Welcome to the soap opera I call my life. It's not much, but I survive. A dead-end job in a dead-end town. At least I've got a loving family round. This is me, what you see is what you get. This is me, if you cross me I won't forget. This is me, what you see is what you get. This is me, believe me, haven't started yet. Yep. I was born in an industrial town, coal and dust and chemicals around. My dad worked in a factory for his pay to feed the family. This is me, what you see is what you get. This is me, if you cross me I won't forget. This is me, what you see is what you get. This is me, believe me, haven't started yet. Yep, yep. schooling wasn't much. Survive the day was the key. All I wanted to do was play guitar and hope someday that I get far. This is me, what you see is what you get. This is me, if you cross me I won't forget. This is me, what you see is what you get. This is me, believe me, haven't started yet. Yep, here we go. Now I make cardboard blocks. I know, but it's a job. I've got a great girl, you see. She has to be to put up with me. This is me, what you see is what you get. This is me, if you cross me I won't forget. This is me, what you see is what you get. This is me, believe me, haven't started yet. Now I wait for the summer to come. This is where I have my fun. Whitby, Shrewsbury and the File, playing my songs till the sun go down. This is me, what you see is what you get. This is me, if you cross me I won't forget. This is me, what you see is what you get. This is me, believe me, haven't started yet. This is me, what you see is what you get. This is me, if you cross me I won't forget. This is me, what you see is what you get. This is me, believe me, haven't started yet. Here we go.
Wow, that was really good. Thank you. Really, really good. You have a lot of people complimenting you in the audience. They're loving this. Lorraine said she's loving this, and a lot of people waving, and they're really enjoying your music.
Great.
Again, if anybody has any questions in the audience, just put it in the comments, please. We would appreciate it, and I will try to ask Martin your question as it comes up on screen.
Don't be shy.
Don't be shy. So do you have any particular, this is going to be like a guitar question, I guess, because, you know, guitarist to guitarist. Do you have any particular string brands that you use more often?
They're the ones I'm using at the moment. I just buy them off the internet, you know, the ones I can afford. This is done by No Bull Music Gear, so whoever they are, and you know, I've just got strings everywhere. I've used Ernie balls.
Yeah, Ernie.
Whatever I can pick up.
Yeah, that's about how I am. That's about how I am. But they do sound very crisp and clear. They have good sound to them, sound quality.
Well, I think when did they change these? About 2-3 weeks ago. Changed these, so that's why it's sounding nice and clean. If I play that guitar on the wall, it sounds like a bag of spanners. I haven't changed the strings on that for years.
Yeah, that's probably how some of my guitars would sound right now. I need to give them some fresh strings. A lot of times people say to put silica packets in your guitar case because it draws the moisture away from the strings. I had a guitarist to tell me that one time, and I was like, I never really thought about that, but I guess that would work.
Yeah, we'll say when I'm not gigging, they're sort of out to me. This is like my music room, so they're all out. And if I want to play on that guitar, I play on that one, or that one, I play on that one. I don't box them up, and they're just there ready for use when I need to use them. But I can see where he's coming from with was it silica gel pack things? Yeah, like granules in them, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like we do have a question from MM Farwell. She says, so many guitars. Is there a particular favorite?
Oh, not really. They've all got stories. This one on the wall here is the one I've wrote most of my songs on. A lot of the early stuff I wrote on, and that's been up and down with me the country over the last 35 years. This one I'm playing now is basically what I bought after actually getting paid for a gig. There's actually a special guitar over here. Let's take this one off. And this one here was actually a friend of mine's dad's, who was a folk singer in the town where I live here in St Helens in the late 70s, early 80s. And he was into the Irish music scene in the town. Sadly, Stephen died a couple of years ago, and when Mike was sorting out his, because sadly his mum died a couple of years after, and when my friend Michael was sorting out the parents' house, he said, like, got these instruments here, do you want them? Because him and his brother and sister, don't play, and he said, like, I know you'd look after them and you'll play them. So hence I've got the guitar, the banjo, the harp, and the classical guitar up on the wall there. But as favourites, this guitar's got a story. They've all got stories. They've all been part of my evolution of music, and none of them are that expensive. But it's all part of my musical career in this room through the guitars, I think.
Bob Ross had asked a question which you just mentioned, and you also mentioned some of this other question that he's asking, but he asked, where in Britain are you? And then also, who were your early influences, which you said earlier?
I live in St Helens, which is a large industrial town in between Liverpool, which is on the west coast, and Manchester, which is east inland. And if you can ever get a map of the northwest of England, there's a road called the East Lancashire Road, which runs between Liverpool and Manchester, and St Helens is smack bang in the middle. So I've got the influences of two big cities, but we're sort of like isolated as well. Even though Liverpool's encroaching on us now, actually Liverpool are trying to take us over, but we're standing hard on that one.
He said, sorry, he was late to the show. That's why he asked those questions. He didn't hear your answers earlier, but that's okay. And I know I am probably repeating questions here, but if you had the opportunity to play anywheres and with any band that you wanted to play with, who would it be and where?
Well, I would love to have played with the Beatles, but that's, the Beatles in the cavern probably would have been, but that'd be dead weird, because if I would have played with the Beatles in the cavern, my mum would have been a teenager watching us, so that would have been a real weird thing, because my mum is originally from Liverpool. Where would I like to play? I would like to do, we've got a few big folk festivals in this country, and, it's one of my aims is, like, hopefully one year, when certain people take notice, that I'll do the big festivals, as I said before, with the Folk Pelt Convention on Croppedy, Cambridge Folk Festival, Shrewsbury and Warwick. They're the sort of like the 4 big folk festivals I would love to do, like be on the bill for that, either starting the night off or even headlining. Imagine that. Well, I can headline the Fairport one, because that's theirs. But that's, the way the thing is. But I'll play anywhere. But that's my dream, to see one of all 4 or one of the big folk festivals in this country.
That would be amazing. You never know. It could happen. You never know. I never thought in a million years that I would be, hosting a show like this. I used to have a radio show called The Jam Session, and I never thought in a million years that I would actually be hosting a television or a show version of that. I always thought that I wouldn't be seen and that you would just hear my voice across the airwaves. So it's amazing. Technology is amazing. That's one thing that the pandemic did for me, is it got me connected to, different musicians. And I just think that is completely amazing that, I can interview somebody who's all the way in the UK. It's just, I love that. I love that so much. It's amazing. Are there any other songs that you would like to play?
I'll do a song about my home village, which St Helens is built up of little, should we say, villages, townships, and I was brought up in a village called Clockface, which was a predominantly a mining village, because St Helens is famous for being a mining town, when we used to have mines open in this country. And Clockface was a mining village, and the next village, Longsut Manor, also. So I wrote this song about, it's basically about a young lad at the turn of the last century who doesn't want to follow his father's footsteps and his grandfather's footsteps down to be a miner. He wants to go off to sea and see a bit of the world, and it's called Clockface Sailor. I'm a Lancashire lad from old parish I came. Lived in Clockface village since the day I was born. Went to St Aidan school where I learned to read and write. Played rugby on the rec every night. And me dad, he said I was soft in the head. He's a miner as his father was before, but a life underground wasn't for me, so I headed off to sea. At 14 I left school. Life underground I were bound, but a life in the dark headed off to sea. And me dad, he said I was soft in the head. He's a miner as his father was before, but a life underground wasn't for me. So I headed off to sea. So I found my way to town, then I found a way to the canal. From Ravenhead to Spike Island I were bound. Paper passage, shuffling cold, found Liverpool. My final goal with the world was waiting there for me. And me dad, he said I was soft in the head. He's a miner as his father was before, but a life underground wasn't for me. So I headed off to sea. Though I never got to see, worked 30 years on the Mersey, skipper of the Iris and Aberdeen. Learned the secrets of the river, I'm a cloth-faced sailor, and that's all I wanted to be. And the dad still says I'm soft in the head. He's a miner as his father was before, but a life underground wasn't for me. So I headed off to sea. So I headed off to sea.
Wow, that was really good. Thank you. Like I said, and I'll keep saying it, I love your music. It is so good.
Thank you.
Have you ever visited the United States before? Like, have you ever been over here?
No.
You've never. I've never been to the UK. I always wanted to visit Dublin, Ireland, because I do have relatives there. My maiden name is McKinney, and some of my relatives come from Dublin, Ireland. And I found that out because they sent us a sporting goods magazine, because they own a sporting goods company, I guess.
Dublin's a lovely part of the world. I said me and my wife had our honeymoon over there in 2009. We absolutely loved the place, and total different way of life in Ireland compared to England. They're so more laid back than us, even on the as you call highways, what we call motorways. I remember I was driving down this motorway going from where we were staying up to Dublin, and I was approaching this car. Now I was getting ready to overtake it, and it just pulled over to the side of the road and let me go. That wouldn't have happened in this country. Oh, which I called it the couldn't be arse lane. You know, just going off you go. But, brilliant country. Lovely countryside, lovely people, and the Guinness does taste better in Ireland.
Well, there you go. Maybe one of these days, I would love to. I would just love to visit England and Ireland and Scotland. I just like to visit it all. It could happen. You never know.
Scotland's brilliant as well. I love Scotland as well. They're just another weird race of people, but they're lovely people as well.
It looks like my director has a question for you. How did the quarantine affect you?
Me personally, it didn't musically. It killed it dead, but with working and everything like that, it didn't affect me. I wasn't furloughed or laid off. I was classed as a key worker because I work in a food warehouse for a major supermarket over here. So, where my wife was forced to work at home on a because she's a legal secretary, I was going out to work every night because I work regular nights. I was going out to work every night, and it was the first few months was really interesting. It just felt like you were playing Russian roulette with your life. But then I might upset a few people when the vaccines came out. I started feeling a bit more safer. I know a lot of people don't agree with vaccines, but to me, I've been vaccinated all my life, and lo and behold, I've never caught anything I've been vaccinated against. So apart from I have had COVID, but not like my we lost one colleague at work through it, and one was seriously ill. He was in hospital for about 4 months with it. I just had a heavy cold. One person lost his life. One person was near death. So that's the way I say it. And we were going into that situation every day with all your social distancing and hands, face mask, and all that lot. But as I said, I remember sitting outside in the rest area because it was to us, the lads who I was working with, it was more beneficial to go outside in the fresh air and the rain and the wind and sit in the canteen, and you don't know what's going to spread around there. So we were sat outside and things like that we were discussing about. We're playing Russian roulette here, but luckily the lads I work with, we all pulled through. I think the majority of us had some sort of COVID now, but we're all still here. But a few of our colleagues haven't got through.
Yeah, the pandemic is the reason why I got this show. I mean, if you want to look at the positive, it's the reason why, I got to be a host for Cosmos Creative Television. But beyond that, I was one of the workers that was needed, so I didn't get asked to stay at home. I was a vet technician student as well as a veterinary assistant. So we were called, to duty. We were, I guess, important. So they had us continually go out. So I didn't stay at home or anything, but I was terrified for my daughter because she had lung surgeries when she was younger and when she was a baby. So it was pretty terrifying. Not knowing.
I'll say that the biggest bind for me was it's not sitting like my parents are still alive and they're elderly now, and I don't think I saw them for the best part of 4 months. But we kept in contact by our phone and text and things like that, but physically going and sitting down and having a chat with your mum and dad, to me that's that was weird. That was weird. I used to walk past the house and just wave to them through the window, that sort of thing. And one of the main reasons why we were staying well away from it, my dad's got cancer, so we daren't go anywhere near until it was told it was safe to. And with the vaccination program we had over here, it made it possible so I can see my parents.
Yeah.
I don't know how long I got left with them, and I was thinking, Jesus, like a couple of, wow, is this the last time I'll be able to go into my family home and be with my parents? It's something nasty going on. Luckily, it didn't. But it's things like that. That's the only thing that messed around with me with the COVID stuff. All the other stuff, yeah, I was a bit scared, a bit terrified, but the only thing that messed around with my head was not being able to see my parents, and that's it.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. My parents are getting up in age, and my dad has a pacemaker. He has heart issues, and that was kind of rough not being able to go over to my parents sit down and have an actual face-to-face conversation with them. It really bothered me a lot. One of our audience members here in the United States, eggs cost a lot. They're almost like $8 per dozen when they used to be like $1 something. So one of our audience members are asking if eggs are expensive there as well.
Yeah, they have shot up in price. Was it the one we saw? £2.50 for half a dozen. Yes, that's £5 a dozen. Up to, that has shot up a hell of a lot. But I think it's something to do with the avian flu going round. But I think a lot of it is also with the stupid situation our country's got into with this Brexit thing as well. I don't know how many of the eggs come from Europe, but I know there's a lot of the producers over here that have suffered with the avian flu as well. But a lot of we've going through a big what they call cost of living crisis, mainly because of should we say the people in power who can't use a calculator basically, and they've plunged us into this.
Yeah, it's really awful. I'm seeing if there's any other questions from the audience. Let me go back through here. I'm not seeing anything. Is there anything else that you would like to say before we wrap up with the program? Of course, I'll let you play us out with a song.
Well, thank you. It's been brilliant. I really enjoyed myself. It's nice speaking to you again. I know we spoke a couple of days ago, but in this sort of format. And I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to get myself out across the pond. I also, when you were on about COVID before, it's luckily COVID got me into doing these podcasts. There's a bloke who lives in Britain, down in Plymouth, Steve Beer, who basically does the same sort of podcast that you're doing now over in this country, and I've been doing podcasts with him for about a year and a half, 2 years now, once every couple of months. So that's got me countrywide. I believe a few people from America listen to his stuff as well. He's got a radio thing connected to the podcast, and hopefully your good citizens of America have enjoyed somebody from Lancashire caterwauling about living in Lancashire. So yeah, it's great. I've just really enjoyed it. Thank you.
One of our audience members says, come play some more on Cosmos Creative Television. So I'm sure that there are other show hosts that would love to have you as a guest on their show. If you're able to do that. I've enjoyed having you as a guest on this show. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, really, Lord.
So if you have any other songs, you can play us out with a song.
Yes, I'm going to finish off with my usual finishing off song. And it's basically a song about refusing to grow old, refusing to grow up, and refusing to do anything sensible. It's called Grow Old Disgracefully. I'm on the wrong side of 50. I'm losing my youth and my hurt, but I'm not gonna take this lying down. Ages to celebrate, not frown. I don't wanna die before I get old. Still gonna hit grow old, I'm gonna grow old disgracefully. Hey! I used to be an angry young man, but now I'm a grumpy granddad. But I still know how to play, and retirement's going to be a party. I don't want to die before I get old. I'm still gonna hit the road. I'm gonna be moshing when I am 90. I'm gonna grow old, I'm gonna grow old disgracefully. Now I take drugs that keep me alive, not the ones that used to make me smile. But before you put me in my retirement home, I'm gonna be rocking till dawn. I don't wanna die before I get old. I'm still gonna hit the road. I'm gonna be moshing when I am 90. I'm gonna grow old disgracefully. They say that age is a number, and you're as old as you feel. The body might look like I am 90, but in my head I'm still 19. I don't wanna die before I get old. I'm still gonna hit the road. I'm gonna be mushy when I am 90. I'm gonna grow old, I'm gonna grow old disgracefully. You know disgracefully, you bet disgracefully. Hey!
I love the spirit of that song. It's so good. One of our audience members actually said, I love the spirit of this song, Martin. I want to friend up with you. He wants to be your friend because he loves your music.
Thank you very much.
His name's Bob Ross. So like
You
the
can
artist.
find me on Facebook. I'm on Facebook.
A lot of people are loving it. And Lorraine said that was a very beautiful song. And people are saying that they refuse to grow old. So that's a really good song. I refuse to grow up. I'm 42. I'm going to be 43 in May, and I refuse.
It's one of those things that you're with me when you look in the mirror in the morning, you go, who's that old bloke looking at me? And then you go, oh God, it's me, innit?
Well, there you go. I do that every morning. I wake up scary, you know. I'm like, oh gosh, you know, my husband has to look at that in the morning.
Where's my hair gone?
Well, thank you so much for being on my show. I've enjoyed every moment of it. I really appreciate it. And like I said, there are other shows in Cosmos Creative Television, and I'm sure that they would love to have you as a guest on there at some point. We have quite a few other shows, but thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you being on my show, and thank you to all the audience members. The next time, it will not be the Jam Session Goes Underground. It'll be my other show called the Dark Glitter Sessions, and I will be talking about Black Veil Brides, so you don't want to miss that episode. And thank you all for being here and for leaving such wonderful comments. I hope you all have a good night. Until next time, catch you on the flip side.
I've been dreaming on in my head like I've seen it. A life worth living is a life with meaning. I'll do what I love till my heart stops beating. I'm feeding this demon. Got a taste, can't erase bitterness in my face. Work a job every day till your dreams fade away. Like a card, never change, play the game that we say. I need a break. I'm staying strong, need to move on to be what I want. I'll keep dreaming on. I'm staying strong, need to move on to be what I want. I'll keep dreaming on.